projects, or the legally racially segregated, isolated Black communities of Chicago were constructed in the 1940s through the 1960s. Through the years, these once beautiful, safe neighborhoods morphed into dangerous areas, strife with gang conflict and drug abuse. In 1995, after years of neglect and mismanagement, the CHA was taken over by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. In 1999, Chicago's then mayor, Richard M. Daley, made a deal to return control of the CHA back to the city. Yet, the city had to make changes to its CHA policies. With this plan, 18,000 units were demolished and 25,000 units were to be renovated within 7 years. The CHA had full reign to spend federal funds to reach the goals implemented in this Moving to Work agreement. The city knocked down CHA's high-rises and gave its residents housing choice vouchers, which created mixed-income communities, which held affordable housing units, low-income housing units, and market rental rates. Mixed-income communities were thought to combat segregation, so the largest and the most notorious housing projects had to go. Cabrini-Green on the north side, Henry Horner Homes on the west side, and the South Side Corridor were all to be replaced with mixed-income neighborhoods. Residents were promised new communities. In Henry Horner, the demolition coincided with the construction, so residents moved out of their old homes right into their new units. Yet that is not what happened with the South Side Corridor. The redevelopment construction didn't even begin until the high-rises were already torn down. The very first CHA housing project, the Julia C. Lathorpe Homes, were built in the North Center and Lincoln Park area to house the Italian and Irish people which resided in the Little Hell and Little Italy neighborhoods of Chicago. No Blacks were initially allowed in not only the Lathorpe homes, but the first 3 communities that CHA built due to the racial covenant, which prevented the rental or the sale of property to Blacks in certain neighborhoods. The 2.5% of Blacks that eventually moved in the Jane Addams home got there because every Jewish and Italian person on the list were housed. Before the projects existed, Chicago's idea of low-income housing was just slums and shantytowns. Inhumane, rodent-infested housing with no plumbing, no floors, no electricity, and just basically places to sleep inside of, commonly referred to as Hoovervilles, named so after then President Herbert Hoover, who society blamed for people having to move into these shanty towns. In 1937, the U.S. Housing Authority was formed to provide housing and to replace the slums. In Chicago, it became known as the Chicago Housing Authority. Residents of the CHA changed the landscape of housing for Blacks, not only for Blacks living in CHA housing, but for Blacks citywide. Dorothy Gautreaux was a community activist and a resident of Altgeld Murray homes. In 1966, she and the American Civil Liberties Union sued the CHA for racially discriminatory housing practices in a suit that claimed that the CHA violated the 1964 Civil Rights Act. The court ruled in favor of the plaintiff, and the CHA was forced to implement plans that would offset the impacts of racial segregation. The CHA was also forced to build housing on scattered sites in predominantly white neighborhoods. The lawsuit led to the Gautreaux program, which relocated CHA families to mixed income communities in the city and the suburbs. And based on this program is where the CHA got its idea for its Moving to Opportunity program. The lawsuit not only desegregated the projects, it also desegregated the city of Chicago, making it illegal to discriminate in housing based on race. Also in Altgeld Gardens, coined the Toxic Donut by Hazel M. Johnson due to the area being surrounded by landfills, industrial buildings, and sewage plants. Tenants of Altgeld Gardens were exposed to hazardous fumes from factories and asbestos during construction. Residents also suffer from excessively high rates of respiratory, pulmonary, and skin-related diseases. And the water in Altgeld Gardens was contaminated with the highest cancer rate in the city of Chicago. Known as the mother of environmental justice, Johnson was first a member of the Altgeld Gardens Local Advisory Council from 1970 to 1979. Then, as founder of People for the Community Recovery, Johnson fought environmental racism. After successfully testing the well source water at Maryland Manor, the result yielded the presence of not only cyanide, but other toxins as well. The findings resulted in new water and sewer lines. Johnson was an activist and a crusader against environmental racism, and she fought for environmental justice. When a previously deemed dangerous neighborhood is located on a piece of prime real estate and the neighborhood is demolished, aka the residents are removed, because let's be honest, property does not make an area dangerous. People do. The new community will bolster rent at a price unaffordable to its previous tenants. That is known as gentrification. And several of the CHA's previously deemed housing projects have been gentrified. Others have simply not been rebuilt at all. Some have posed the question, was the CHA a failure? Well, if it was the goal of CHA to provide safe, adequate housing that had access to ample resources which reinvested in the community, then yes, it was a failure. But by the very definition of the word project, the projects would have come to an end eventually.